The Brooklyn Nine by Alan Gratz. Fourth inning, The Way Things Are Now. Coney Island, New York, 1908. Chapter 1. Walter wandered the grand boardwalk along the yard outside the Brighton Beach Hotel while his parents checked in. It was early spring, just before the start of the baseball season, and the salty air from the roaring surf was still cool and crisp, like a last gasp before the long, hot summer to come. A few brave souls were even waiting in the ocean, their navy blue two-piece suits dark against the bright white of the sandy beach. Walter heard a familiar crack and a cheer. Farther down the boardwalk, part of the yard that separated the hotel from the ocean was parceled off into a baseball field, and he rushed to watch. As the bat boy for the Superbus, Walter saw more baseball games than probably any other boy in Brooklyn, but the sound of a bat hitting a ball still excited him. There was a small but enthusiastic crowd of hotel guests watching the game, gentlemen dressed in suits and hats, and ladies wearing extravagant summer dresses, all lounging on reclining beach chairs under umbrellas while colored waiters served them drinks and treats. This was where New York's well-to-do vacationed, and the baseball game was being played for them and them only. And it was being played by Negroes. The runner on second base danced back and forth, trying to rattle the pitcher, waving his arms and making silly sounds that made the hotel guests titter with laughter. The pitcher wheeled and pretended to throw the ball to the second baseman, who made believe he'd caught it. The runner played along, getting into a rundown between second and third as the fielders tossed a phantom ball back and forth between them, trying to tag him out. The ladies and gentlemen roared with laughter. "This isn't baseball," thought Walter. "It's a minstrel show." The runner slid safely into third base, and the invisible ball was thrown back to the big pitcher, who focused again on the batter. The pickoff and rundown might have been fake, but there was nothing phantom about his next pitch, except that the batter had no way of hitting it. It was a blur of motion, a momentary vision that made you think a baseball had been thrown, but you weren't quite sure, until the umpire called it a strike. The ball was tossed back to the pitcher. There it was, made of real laces and leather, proving that something had actually been thrown. And then he did it again and again, the batter taking a pathetic, halting swing at the last one before being rung up on strikes. The players changed sides. "Who are they?" Walter asked. "Waiters," said a gentleman lounging next to him. "Some of the hotel staff." "Cubans," his lady friend said, "up here for the season. They only play for fun." The last three pitches didn't look like somebody playing for fun, Walter thought, but he kept it to himself. "Hey, nice hat," said a boy behind him. Walter turned. Three boys about his age had come up to him. The oldest one might have been 13. Walter touched the Brooklyn Superbus hat he wore. "Thanks. I'm the bat boy for the Superbus." "No," said the big kid. "I mean, nice hat, Sheeny. I think I'll take it." Walter clenched his fists. "What did you just call me?" "You heard me, kike," the kid said. "I'm not a Jew," said Walter. It wasn't the first time he'd been called a Jew, and not the first time he'd gotten into a fight over it. "Sure you're not Bergstein. With that nose you've got, your mom must have doinked a rabbi. Goodness." Walter launched himself at the big one, fists flailing. It was a fair fight for about 2 seconds. He got in one good blow before the kid and his two friends ganged up on him and beat the stuffing out of him. It would have been smarter to try and break away and run, or even curl up on the ground in a little ball, but Walter clawed and fought, getting himself bloodier in the process. "Cheese it, Pinkertons," one of the boys said, and suddenly they were gone. And so was Walter's Superbus hat, the official hat he'd been given with his bat boy uniform. He tried to sink to his knees, but a hotel security man pulled him up roughly by the arm. "All right, we don't stand for any roughhousing here at the Brighton," the man said, his accent thick with Irish. "I didn't start nothing," Walter said. The Pinkerton man eyed him. "I'll bet. I know your kind." "Walter," his father called. His parents rushed up to him. "Walter, we've been looking everywhere for you." "Walter, what happened to your face?" his mother asked. "And your clothes?" "Been fightin'," the Pinkerton man said. He gave the same appraising eye to Walter's parents as he had the boy. "You guess." No, said Walter's father. They're out of rooms. The concierge was kind enough to recommend the West Brighton Hotel, Walter's mother said. She licked a handkerchief and wiped at his face with it. Walter squirmed. We won't be troubling you any more, his father said. The Pinkerton released his prisoner and nodded. West Brighton's the place for you, he said. Now move along. Walter's father dragged him away, sparing him at least the ministrations of his mother. What were you thinking, getting into a scrap at the Brighton? Not a week goes by I don't get called into school for your fighting. But on vacation? They jumped me, Walter protested. They called me a sheeny. That's enough of that talk, his mother scolded. Walter saw his mother and father exchange a look. Why aren't we staying at the Brighton this year? He asked. We stayed here last year. I told you, they're out of rooms. They have 1,000 rooms, Walter said. How can they be sold out? It's not even summer. I thought we had a reservation. The West Brighton is just as nice, his mother said, and her tone put an end to the conversation. Walter sighed. The West Brighton was just as nice, only it was 20 times smaller. Even so, they had plenty of rooms open. The name is Snyder, Walter's father told the clerk. Walter thought he'd misheard his father. Their name was Schneider, not Snyder. But then his father spelled it for the clerk, S-N-I-D-E-R. And that was how they were entered into the hotel register. Walter started to open his mouth, but a nervous shake of the head from his mother cut him off. A colored porter carried their bags to their hotel room. Along the way, Walter saw something else different about the West Brighton Hotel. There were Jews here, lots of them. Russian Orthodox Jews with full beards and long curls who'd been flooding into New York the past few years. The Schneiders, now suddenly the Snyders, were silent until the porter deposited them in their room and closed the door behind him. Walter could barely contain himself. Why did you tell that man our name is Snyder? His father sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. Please, Walter, not now. But our name is Schneider, not... Don't you think I know what our name is? His father erupted. Walter's mother avoided the argument by unpacking their bags into the bureaus in the room. It's those Russian Jews they have coming over, said Walter's father. Why can't they be more American? If they would just blend in more, not cling to the old ways so much. Didn't President Roosevelt say there should be no more hyphenated Americans? Walter began to put it all together. You mean they kicked us out because they think we're Jews? They didn't kick us out, his father told him. There were no rooms left. But we're not even Jewish, Walter cried. I told you. Did you tell them we're not Jews? What made them think that? Walter, you didn't even tell them? You just let them send us away? I'm sure the hotel manager's a good man, his father said. Put yourself in his shoes. If the other guests don't want us there, he loses business. It makes no sense for him to hurt himself. So we get hurt instead? No one's been hurt. The West Brighton is just as nice, Walter's mother finally said. I like it smaller anyway. Walter shook with anger. But we're not Jews. Schneider isn't even a Jewish-sounding name. But Felix Schneider was a Jew, and there's no reason to remind anyone. From today, our name is Snyder, not Schneider. Understand? What am I supposed to do? Go back to school and say, my name's not Schneider anymore? It's Snyder? There are plenty of people who change their names to fit in, his mother said. Sure, when they step off the boat as greenies at Ellis Island, not 100 years after they got here. Don't yell at your mother, his father told him. But I don't understand. We stayed there last year and nobody said anything. It's just the way things are now, his father said. So, his mother said, what shall we do before lunch? It says here there's croquet and horseshoes on the front lawn. Walter got up and left the room. He slammed the door behind him, then sprinted the length of the hall and down the stairs before his father could come after him and punish him for it. He didn't want to play horseshoes or croquet or do anything at the West Brighton. He wanted to be back at the real Brighton Hotel, and he wanted his hat back.